Waterloo City Council work session. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Ms. Creighton-Smith?
Here.
Mr. Childs?
Here.
Mr. Greider?
Here.
Ms. Wilder? And Mr. Foyce.
Here. Motion, please.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as proposed or amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, today we are going to have a discussion around the animal control operations. So, welcome. Tell us about animal control.
I'm Sheila Steffen, Public Works Coordinator, and I have with me Damian Fischel, Safety and Compliance Director, and Ryan Dolan from the Animal Control Office. Both are behind me here. So we're hoping to answer questions that you may have about the animal control program, but to give you a little background, Damian and I were given the task of overseeing animal control, and with that in mind, we sat down with the staff to find out what their pain points were, what issues they had, what hurdles they were trying to overcome. And with that, we contacted other cities our size, so those cities between 60 and 80,000, to see how they had structured their animal control program. We also contacted cities over 100,000 because with the city of Cedar Falls, our population that we actually service for animal control is over 100,000. So we wanted to see what that looked like in both of those realms. We actually met with the city of Cedar Falls last week to let them know we were looking at the program and what we were looking at revising. So just to let you know that they are prepared for that as well. The issues that we wanted to address were staff fatigue, the lack of time for outreach, educating the public on animal care and animal concerns, the lack of training for the animal control staff, just the time they had to go to training. Our current contract with Cedar Falls and UNI does not cover the current costs of the program. And the Cedar Falls miles constitutes over half of our vehicle mileage and maintenance. So we just wanted to kind of bring all of that on the table and kind of look at all of those areas. The document you have in front of you for animal control, just to give you a little bit of background, the total calls for animal control are about 800 calls per year, and that's fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. The total DOAs that they have are about 200 a year, but that's made up of deer, dogs and cats, and other wildlife. Our current program for animal control, the grant funding that started that program has ceased. We no longer have that revenue stream to offset the costs of that program. That program has 2 full-time staff members, 3 part-time staff members, and we run a 24/7, 365 operation. We have a dispatch center currently. We've obtained that through our waste management department because they have to have 24-hour service. So Permar has agreed to do after-hours calls for us. So at this point in time, they're only dispatching after hours. We have changed our after-hours calls to emergency calls only because one of the pain points for the staff was taking calls over evening hours and not being able to get any sleep. So we changed those to emergency calls. We have 2 vans that we have adapted for AC services. They're not truly animal control vans. They're just vans that we have kennels set up inside of. And then we are running 7 to 8, that's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then 7 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. But we are on call after those hours. So as we looked at the program and we spoke to the animal control staff, what we would like to do is go to 2 animal control trucks with external boxes. We've actually had one of those boxes on order for 2 years. It just came in last week. So we're actually gonna get that set up on the chassis to use that external box. We would like to move to 4 full-time staff members instead of 2 full-time and 3 part-time. Where our hours of coverage are changing. As we went through this analysis, we talked to other cities and found out that we were trying to provide far more coverage. So we're trying to kind of rein that back in. We're looking at no holidays and no Sundays unless it's emergencies only. And for emergencies only, and as we talked to the city of Cedar Falls, That would be a dog or cat that's hit but is still alive, or if a PD requests assistance, then we would help the PD. We would look at getting a dispatch center to dispatch all calls during the day as well as after hours. And then we are looking at no DOA pickup. So that's kind of what we're looking at, how to structure the program. Just to give you a little bit of background for other cities, the city of Davenport and Scott County Humane Society just had a issue with their contract. They were under a 3-year contract, the city of Davenport, and that would be for $400,000 a year. But the Humane Society, who just renewed that contract, came back and needed an extra $1 million. So that they came back and asked for an extra $1 million. So they are at the table talking at the moment to see who will provide those animal control services. The city of Sioux City is under contract currently with a private entity to provide services for $639,000 a year. So as Damien and I went through the process to look at our costs and our structures, we've had to come back and analyze that, and we gave some new numbers to the city of Cedar Falls. So at this point in time, they'll be discussing if they would like to stay with the city of Waterloo and cover the cost of the program, or if they would like to pursue animal control services on their own. So that's pretty much everything. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Mayor. So do these numbers here include both scenarios for the proposal? So if Cedar Falls were to decide to go look for services elsewhere, would you still be requesting 4 full-time staff, or would that be fewer?
I would like to still move with 4 full-time staff, just to allow the outreach, because I would love to be at the farmers markets, in the schools, doing outreach wherever we can, because we're very reactive and not proactive. We do have in the budget currently to fund 1 and probably a quarter full-time, so we could work the budget so that I could actually pay for 2 other full-time staff.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
how much is your budget?
Right now, I believe, I can grab my numbers, I want to say it was 315,000, but that was just AP expenses. So when we ran the AP expenses through the program, that is the New World program, that's what it came out to be. But as we analyzed the system, we found out we really weren't charging for replacement vehicles. We weren't charging for staff or salaries. We weren't charging for dispatch centers. We weren't charging for a lot of those other expenses that we have incurred and that the city has paid for, but that Cedar Falls hasn't actually brought to the table yet.
How much of our overall budget is charged to Cedar Falls?
Currently?
Yeah.
Currently, they've paid $85,000,
Okay.
and that's what they paid last year.
And when I'm looking at this total calls in this paper that you gave, it says Cedar Falls on the top. Is this total for Waterloo and Cedar Falls, or just Cedar Falls?
Just Cedar Falls.
So where's our total calls in for Waterloo?
Total calls for Waterloo are just about 4,000, and that would be calls for service. I think Ryan mentioned the actual number of calls that we receive almost are double than that, probably closer to 8,000 with calls that they answer on just generic issues.
So if you choose not to do DOA pickups, who picks those animals up?
Yeah. For the city of Cedar Falls?
No, I'm talking about Waterloo. if you
No,
choose-
this would be for the city of Cedar Falls.
So then who picks those up if you got a dead deer on Rainbow Drive?
That's what we're discussing with the city of Cedar Falls. If they would like to go with our contract and we revise the contract, then that's one of the items on the contract that we would not pick up city of Cedar Falls DOAs.
Okay, so how many hours a week do you think we devote to Cedar Falls?
I am gonna look at Damien and Ryan for that.
Please do.
About 30%.
30%?
Okay. And this has to do with Cedar Falls, but it has to do with animal control.
Mhm.
At one time, your people were able to dispatch animals with a .22 long rifle.
Correct.
Where are we at with that now?
I believe at this point in time, we're still working with the PD, and I believe the PD are putting those animals down.
Why did we switch from our guys doing it?
It was a discussion we had with PDCM, And PDCM came back and felt that from a liability standpoint, based on the training that the animal control officers have received, that's a liability we have that at this point in time, we'd like to try to minimize that risk. So at this point in time, it's with the PD department.
Is that something, Chief, oh, don't mean to throw you in the bus there, Chief, is that something that you guys are happy doing, or is it something that we need to work with, giving them the training to?
No, our goal is to get them the training.
Okay,
It's very inefficient to have us do it, especially given our equipment and availability. We don't carry 22 rifles, et cetera.
but then the fact it takes an
no.
officer away from it.
Yeah, the goal is to train them through some program.
Is there a timeline on that?
No, it kind of stalled out as they were working through this, so we're just waiting to see.
Thank you, Chief. What kind of numbers are we talking about for Cedar Falls?
For
You're in discussions with them that we've given them that we need from them?
the numbers that they're looking at currently,
Yeah,
the base contract for them would be $500,000 a year. And then on top of that would be calls for service.
but that's more than your budget right now.
Correct, because that would be just the accounts payable budget looking through New World. So going in up to this point, we really didn't have Element software. We didn't have the software to track the vehicle mileage
Okay.
and the vehicle expenses. So now that we've got that software, we can start tracking that data. But at this point in time, there's other expenses in the program that were not in New World that weren't being assessed to Cedar Falls. So they sat outside of that number.
So what you're proposing is this 600% increase.
And we're proposing to cover our costs for the program.
So then, if that's, and I'm not being argumentative, but
Right.
if that's your cost for the program, then your overall cost to operate animal control in Waterloo with them would be $1.5 million, if that's 30%.
Approximately. Yes, correct.
But we're not funding you at 1.5 million.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So we have 4,000 calls for service for Waterloo alone, is that correct?
For total currently, yep, total.
Okay.
About 4,000 per year.
Okay.
And that would be calls for service, and those are actual tickets that we create. I know that Ryan and his staff are on the phone constantly dispatching calls throughout the day. So they dispatch the calls, they arrive on site and take care of the issue, and then they go ahead and try to do all the paperwork to get that through the Element software.
Okay. Other question was, will the insurance company cover you if staff received adequate training? Have they agreed to do that or not?
That's an interesting question because at this point in time, PDCM has come back. We're kind of a unique entity. Most of the time, animal control is under the police department for this very reason, because there's firearms included. We're kind of a unique entity that we have it under public works. So, and to get some of the expenses in that as well, some of our sanitation department, we have to use the Tommy Gate and sanitation trucks for animal control calls. Our street department are called in to help dispatch animals. So although Cedar Falls only had a portion of that, the city of Waterloo residents were picking up the other portion and subsidizing the city of Cedar Falls for those calls. So that's where we're trying to be more, we're trying to balance that so it doesn't all fall on the city of Waterloo residents.
Right.
I think the most important part of this is I remember being on council and going through different ways that we ran the program, from our ability to work, our ability to just take it all ourselves and keep animals in kennels in different places, and that didn't really work at the time. And then the partnership, very much improved partnership with the Humane Society, which grateful to be a part of that. But I do know the partnership with Cedar Falls has been one where we can show some collaboration. But with any partnership, it's time to do an analysis of where we're at today. And so if those numbers increase, if we're able to take a look at the dollars, all of those things are important right now as you begin the negotiation for next year's contract. So, I applaud it. Our goal in partnering with them back when we first started was very much in good spirit and would love to keep it that way. But I think now it's time to take a look, show the data, and so they can see exactly where we're at
Right.
and whether or not it will be fruitful for us to continue this partnership along with them. So I applaud you in taking a look at the data and the numbers, but we definitely have to make sure that we don't operate as much as we have been in the past at a loss. So
Right.
please keep the council informed.
Yeah.
Please keep us
I have one
up
more
to date.
question, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
ma'am.
Is that okay? How the other cities where the police department, the animal control is under the police department, how efficient? What's the cost and effectiveness of those programs? Do we have any data?
I
to
don't, those are
support?
not questions that we asked
Okay,
specifically.
okay.
So, but I do know the city of West Des Moines was structured similar to the way we are currently. They were trying to handle the city of Clive and Urbandale as well. And I think that contract fell off, I want to say in 2022, again, after about a 3-year run, for the very fact that they were spending a lot of time dispatching to Clive and Urbandale and unable to handle the West Des Moines residents, which I know our animal control officers, they struggle with that as well. When a call comes in for Cedar Falls or Waterloo, how do they dispatch? Who do they take care of? So they're always struggling with those conversations too.
Thank you.
And to the previous point too, data shows a lot, and being able to show the data and show those numbers that we have now should bode well in your conversations with them moving forward. So thank you for your efforts. You guys are unsung heroes, and we know that we've had trouble at some points with animals and dogs this past year. So I just want to tell you personally, thank you all for the incredible work that you do and your ability to step up in some of the most challenging times that I've seen we face over the last years. So be anxious to hear how the negotiations and how they move forward. So,
And that is really accolades to the staff because they're absolutely on the front lines.
And Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
not that I'm going to be able to top that, but I want to personally thank Damien and the work that you've done. I've had a very troubled area in my ward dealing with a particular situation, and it's gone all over the place. And I've had nothing but compliments from citizens about the work that you guys have been doing. And I continue to hear these compliments to this day, regardless of how crazy that situation is. So hopefully we're getting closer to the end of that one. But thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.